Check, check. All right. I guess the cable is loose. Welcome to the Palm Beach Dyno live feed. That started out awesome. Anyway, that's the fun of live feeds. What's up, Trent, Catherine, Houston? Can you trust any test if the tester is wearing a paid advertisement? Well, that's one of the topics for today. My money is on the 350 intake. Carter TV, what's up? Ed Catalick. Carlos, what's up? Yeah, I guess I got a bad cable. I had a bad cable 2 weeks ago and I changed it. I guess I need to buy different types of cable. Craig Belt, what's up? TJ, what up? Jason, Rocco. Hey, Ray, what's up? Everything's going pretty good over here. Staying super, super busy. Going to be doing some intake testing here real soon for those of you guys that saw the thumbnail. In fact, let me grab it right here. Here it is. This is the TTR Billet intake manifold. There's a little confusion between carbon and billet. This one has carbon on it, but it's not a carbon plenum. This is actually an LS version. See how this plenum is full carbon. Functionally, they'll be very similar. We're going to find out in the test. The big difference is this is a full carbon plenum, and that's just a billet aluminum plenum. The cool thing about that one is we could take the lid off, so I want to pull the lid off that in just a couple minutes and show it to you guys. But anyway, that's how I came up with the topic for tonight is I love doing this sort of testing. You see this sort of testing a lot, whether it's a post on social media, a video, what have you. And one thing I've noticed is a lot of these tests, it's hard to tell if people are doing them inaccurately. When I say inaccurately, I'm talking about my opinion, of course. That's what we're talking about. I don't know all the facts of everything, but when I see a test that it just seems like things are done in a way that there's no chance of consistency. And I'm real anal about that stuff on my own deal. And that doesn't mean everything I do is consistent and reliable, but I try my best to make it consistent and reliable. And I try to do things multiple times so the results are, trustworthy. Now, anytime you do a test on one vehicle, there could be something on that particular vehicle that's holding things back. And maybe, like, for instance, let's say you're doing a cold air kit test and you got 10 cold air kits. Well, maybe the exhaust is too choked up and intake A, B, and C all seem to be the same. But once you get rid of your exhaust problem, then maybe cold air intake B is going to be best. And you won't know that in that test. That test will show you that they're all the same, but that car is holding back really seeing what's going on with that product. So, and the same could be said on the intake testing that we're going to be doing. For those of you that haven't seen the thumbnail or whatever, we're going to be testing the intake I just showed you, the TTR billet intake versus a Mach 1, which is same as GT350, versus a Boss intake. We're using Jason's from 1320 Junkie Performance, his boost proof intake, which seems to be the popular version of the Boss intake. So might as well use a ported version of it, give it the best chance. But in this particular case, the car that we're testing it on has camshafts in it. So are the results that we see on that car even going to be relevant to a car that doesn't have camshafts? Probably. This is probably, I didn't pick it this way. It just happened to be a car. Manny owns it. He's friends with Carlos, who's a good customer of ours. Carlos has that Mach 1 intake is off Carlos's actual Mach 1 that has a TTR carbon intake on it. We haven't had a chance to re-dyno his car with the intake because we couldn't really take full advantage of it when it had the Mach 1 intake on it because it was making 1,500 horsepower spinning. And that's the problem with chassis dyno on this sort of testing too. So in this case, we're going to take the orange car that you saw in the thumbnail, With the Mach 1 intake, it needs bigger injectors. The last time it was here, it was on 1300s. It made just over 1200 horsepower limited by injector. So we'll put 1700s in it, tune it. Oh, one other thing we're going to do is that one has a GT350 throttle body on it. So what we're going to do is Justin from VMP sent me an adapter that they make, and you can bolt on a normal Coyote throttle body onto the Mach 1/3 GT350 intake. So that way all three intakes will use the same throttle body. If you saw our carbon fiber intake testing, they all had different size throttle bodies, yet the TTR still won, and it had the smallest throttle body. Would it have done even better if it had a bigger throttle body? Possibly, but when I do testing like that, and I suspected that the TTR was going to come out on top, I was like, well, this one has the smallest throttle body, so nobody can really accuse me of like cheating or whatever like that. But in this case, it's better to have them all the same. Let's say so. Hey, look at that. Mrs. Bionis is in the house. John F. PBD. Thanks, man. Integrity is everything. Yeah, I mean, that's a real important thing that, I guess if you ask most people, they're going to say that they're honest and fair and all that. But I truly do believe that I'm a pretty objective guy. In this case, if the boost proof intake or the Mach 1 does better than the billet intake, then it does better, right? I don't want to, at the end of the day, when I do this stuff, I'm in it for the long haul. I've been in this business since, we'll say, 2003. So over 20 years. And I would be honest, period. But there's motivation to be honest, right? If I do a video and show you some results that benefit me sales wise, but they don't benefit you as a customer, then I might make a chunk of money in the beginning, but not long term. And not only will I make, the sales will just fall off on that product, because no matter how much I lie about it, it's not going to work. So people won't buy it. And it also hurts my credibility and the credibility of my company. So it benefits, okay, if I lied and said this intake made a bunch more power and I make an extra $20,000 selling, 20, 30, 40 intakes, great, $20,000. But is that worth it if it's going to make me look bad? Of course not. So I try to do everything in life like that. I'm not money motivated. That's probably why I'm not building this many cool cars right now. But, it really just comes down to, I do this for the love of it and for the fun of it. And I hope you guys enjoy that kind of testing. One thing I want to see in the comments is, after I do this intake testing, what kind of testing would you guys like to see? I realize that testing a billet intake isn't really speak to everybody. A lot of people may be interested in that, but they, a lot of people aren't going to be buying that product. So I'd also like to do some tests that you guys want to see. Certain things are easy to test. Intake manifolds is one of them. In this case, we're going to put the 1700s in this car, tune it up with the Mach 1 intake, and then not touch anything and do multiple pulls at multiple boost levels. So we'll set it up for probably 11, 12, 1300 horsepower, do 3 pulls, wait time between the pulls, maybe do 2 pulls at each power level, letting it sit. Then we'll swap the intake. Don't touch the tune. Don't touch anything. Do the same exact pulls. Switch intakes again. Do the same exact pulls. Be sure all the fluid temperatures are the same. We'll be sure tire temperatures are similar. Everything, right? Try to be as consistent as we can. And we're going to try and do this all within one day. So obviously weather changes throughout the day, but for the most part, it'll be close enough for you to be able to tell. And really what you're looking for in an intake test is trends and power curves and things like that. Just saying it picked up 50 horsepower may or may not, really mean much if it picks up 50 horsepower at 8,500 RPM, but it's down 100 horsepower everywhere else. So what's up from Dubai? Hey, yeah, for those of you guys that don't know, the TTR intake is made in Dubai. Let me say something about those guys really quick. They approached me about the carbon intake, and then I believe it was my idea to come out with the billet version of it. And they've been absolutely phenomenal to deal with, extremely motivated, very, very receptive to every single bit of feedback I give them. Doesn't mean I'm right all the time. There's one time where we're talking about changing on the prototype intake. I didn't like the way the rails mounted to the intake. It wasn't bad. It would work. It worked for us. We tested it, but I'm trying to get these guys to the point because I feel like they want to be to that point of they can send the intake to somebody like me who's very, very picky, and there's almost nothing you could say about it, right? Nothing. And there's one or two very small things on this billet intake that I saw, nothing that will affect the performance, just small little details. And I've already talked to them. They're very receptive to that. And, it's great. I love working with these guys. Um, uh, and who knows? Maybe we'll come out with a bunch more products. That's why the LS intake's sitting behind me, because they don't have anybody that really seems to want to push that intake or try that intake. So we're going to be testing that intake on Adam, who works for us in his on his Cadillac. He's got a CTSV that's been low nines already, and we're going to test it back to back on that. I'm not even going to tell you what type of setup he has, because I don't really know anything about GMs at all. So anyway, Jason, what's up? We did his EcoBoost. Jason Miller, how you doing? Mashari, will you be testing the TTR billet intake against the Plasma Man? That's a good question. I will not, because this intake manifold is essentially the same as the carbon one. The plenum is slightly different, of course, but the intake, the runners are the same, and everything like that. And while I would love to continue to test every combo on every car, there's time constraints, especially trying to do it within one day. So in this case, we've already tested the billet, or excuse me, we already tested the carbon version versus the Plasma Man and Sean's custom alloy intake. Which, if you guys haven't seen that, check out our channel. The TTR came out on top with the smallest throttle body on all of them. And so those results should pretty much carry over to the billet one. And of course, once we start shipping all these, you'll get results from other people. Like, for instance, in the GT500 testing, we didn't test it versus anything but billet intakes. But one of our customers tested it, and I don't even tune the vehicle. I believe it's Lund tuned. And he tested it versus an 18 manifold, and it was up 50 horsepower over the 18 manifold. Didn't lose power anywhere, and up 50 in the peak area and extended RPM range. It was perfect. I'd love to show you guys the dyno graphs, tell you before and after dyno numbers, but the guy takes car on the street, so can't really do that. Alex Albuquerque in the house. What's up? Home of Hellion Turbo. John Uris, good buddy of mine. Some news coming there soon. TJ, can anything be skewed? Plus, without testing in a vacuum, it's all open to interpretation. Yeah, that's a good question. Skewing test results. There's ways to do it by mistake, and there's ways to do it, out of ignorance, I guess I would say. I hate to use that word because it's kind of negative, but I don't really consider it a negative word. If you're ignorant, that just means you don't know something. So let's talk about the down and dirty way to do it. And that's one reason I love to test on a dyno jet. Although on the higher horsepower cars, it does become an issue, or it's more difficult. But a dyno jet is an inertia dyno, which is, you can skew the numbers. There's multiple ways probably to skew the numbers. The most popular way to skew the numbers is manipulating weather data. So in our testing results, we'll be sure to display weather data, because what you can do is you can take a heat gun or whatever and heat up the weather station and add 10 or 20 degrees of temperature, and then all of a sudden the weather correction factor is going to skew that. That's probably the most popular way on a dyno jet. On the older software, that WinPep 7, there was other ways you can manipulate things. WinPep 8 is a little different, but there's always, if you're gonna, at a certain point, you guys got to just trust me that I'm gonna not do you dirty, and that's all you got to worry about. But there are things that that can skew dyno numbers without really knowing why. I mean, stupid things like air to your brake on your dyno. If the air starts to go down, the brake's going to drag and it'll lower power. Tires, if the tires, depending on what type of tire it is, a drag radial is going to show less power than a regular radial tire. As the drag radial gets hotter, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And that's going to be a challenge we're going to have on the intake testing because so we have traction, we're going to use a drag radial, which typically we don't like to use a drag radial, but in this case, we'll do a run and let it cool down for quite some time. And, I'll get out, I'll even get out a temperature gauge, check tire temps, all those sorts of things. There's other little things that can really affect dyno numbers like oil temp, trans temp, rear end temp. One thing that's a huge deal that people just don't get is how much humidity affects dyno numbers, and that is not really accounted for in your SAE or STD correction. And then, of course, there's SAE versus STD. You can't on a dyno jet, you can't display on the same graph an STD and an SAE at the same time. But if you just show one and then show the other, and one is STD and one is SAE, that one's going to be higher. But humidity is a huge factor, and I think I talked about this last week on my truck. It was making 860, 870 in really humid weather. I put it back on the dyno and it made 930. Same exact tune, same exact setup for the most part. I mean, maybe it had a half a degree more of timing. That wasn't 50 horsepower. It was the humidity. So, I think most people are trying to their best to do accurate dynos testing. But there's a lot of fails. And there's one in particular I can remember recently. I'm not going to mention who it was, but it was a turbo test. And it was basically, I can't remember what meant. I guess I probably should have brought it up if I can't remember. But it was testing two brands of turbos, and it was posted by the turbo manufacturer, which is a red flag in my opinion. And I think what they did was, I think they had the same duty cycle to the turbocharger. Well, one turbo at the same duty cycle made a little bit less boost, so it was down on power. Of course it's going to make less power because it made less boost. And how much duty cycle a turbo takes, or to make a certain amount of boost, isn't a great measure of much. So in my opinion, either A, you have to target the same boost, or B, you have to target max boost the turbo can make, right? This turbo is the wastegate shut, the whole pull, which, a lot of people aren't going to do that testing. Actually, Tony at T1 posted a deal like that, and I asked him about how they did it because of the last test I was just talking about where I didn't think it was really fair. And I didn't expect him to say this, but they just tested both turbos at full tilt, which is a fair test, right? At the most this turbo is going to make is 2,000, and the most this turbo is going to make is 2,400. Doesn't really matter how much boost you made if that's what you're looking for, right? Because at the end of the day, you're not asking for a certain amount of boost when you build a car. Like, oh man, I'm dreaming of 18 pounds of boost. It's like, no, I'm dreaming of 2,400, dreaming of 3,000, whatever horsepower. Those are numbers that don't apply to me or anybody in here, I'm guessing, but I'm talking, these V10, I believe that was, I don't know what that was on, either a GTR or a V10 application. Hey, Jason, what's up? Wants to know what kind of power our K2 BAP is good for. So the BAP we only use for pump gas. We don't ever, and I know you said no E85, but people ask this all the time. Really you're going to hit your limit of your engine on pump gas before you hit the limit of the BAP. So, typically Gen 2s, we can get up a little bit over 700, sometimes 720, 725, depending on weather. Gen 3s are going to be lower than that on pump gas, right at 700 max. Mashari asked if we were doing it versus other billet manifolds. Again, not in this particular case. We already did that on the GT500 with the carbon one. Other people may do that. We may be able to do that down the road. I do have a Plasma Man here I could throw on there, but it's just a matter of time and trying to do it all in one day. TJ says American Muscle has been using that mentality forever. I'm assuming that has to do with the testing. Uh, Ed says honesty will make you money. Well, someday. I'm still waiting for that to happen. No, that's not. We do good here. I'm happy. I can sleep well at night, and that's what matters. And I love my job. Hopefully, you guys can tell. Bernard says, "Hey, Ken, I'm of course interested in a 2025 GT 500. Of course, like my 2020. I'll send it to you when they have the ability to tune them on the S650. That's another deal that we just don't know yet if we're going to get there on tuning." Jason asks, Illuminator long block, what's the best boost setup? As far as what power adder or how much boost? I mean, Illuminators, we like to keep at 1,000 horsepower since they're not sleeved. You could push it a little harder than that from time to time, but that's where I like to see them. Grip Garage says, really admire the R&D you're doing and bringing back PBD, focusing on the base customer. Thanks. Like I said, man, I really love doing this sort of testing. But what makes it even cooler is this sort of stuff where I get to talk to you guys, get your feedback, provide results. And, one of the proudest things, one of the proudest moments I have, and I have them fairly often, is when somebody is dropping off a car and it's because of a past video that we posted that was a successful build. And it makes it all worth it. For those of you guys that have never tried this sort of stuff, this is not the easiest thing to do, whether it's a produced video or a live video. They both have huge challenges to get them right. I enjoy it. For those of you guys that don't know, which most of you probably don't know, is way back before I got into this 20 years ago, I went to college for video and audio production. I worked professionally in video. So I have a little bit of knowledge there, although back then I'm so old that we didn't even edit on, like my senior year, they got a computer to edit on. Before that, we were editing on tape. When I would edit audio tapes, I used a razor blade to edit it. Can you believe that? Anyway, Tim White says, listening, but out logging for your boy Kobe. Yeah, Kobe's awesome, man. He's a great dude. So is Bobby. Everybody here is awesome. I love my team. It's been great. The last year, we've all really gotten to be really good friends, and we got some synergy here at the shop now that we've never had, and I love it. Carlos Sabrino, do I tune Holly? Of course I do, brother. And I can't. Hopefully, I get my hands on your car. I know somebody else had their hands to get it running, but I'm hoping I can get to play with that thing too. For those of you guys that don't know Carlos Sabrino, who doesn't know Carlos Sabrino? But he's the owner of the Joker, which unfortunately he had an accident with, and it was already one of the fastest coyotes out there. He won World Cup with it. Very, very seasoned racer, championships in NMRA. Very good friend of mine. I've known him for most of the time I've been in this, an NMRA friend to start. And he's building Joker 2.0, and it's almost done. I mean, it's running. They did it on an engine dyno. It's in the car. He got another car after his wreck. That's a beautiful, beautiful car. That was already a race car, and he's made it even better. And I can't wait to see what that thing runs. He's really going to upset a lot of people. The only one thing is I'm not sure about the hood, brother. I'm not sure about the hood scoop. You're definitely not going to fool anybody calling it, not a race car at that point. But I support it if you want it. John F., what's up, brother? We appreciate you. Just installed a new built motor. What's your preference on motor break-in? That's a great question, actually. I don't know if I can find it. I haven't seen the video in a long time. But some guy did a YouTube video. Maybe I'll do a YouTube video. That's a great idea. Maybe the next built motor. We just installed one in a F-150. It's not a built motor. It's just a replacement motor. But I can do it on that, or we've got a couple built motors going in the next couple weeks. I can show you the engine break-in procedure, but the whole old school deal of just go out and, put 500 miles on it and vary the RPM. That's bad advice. Super bad advice. In my opinion, Now, not everybody can do this, but in my opinion, the best place to break in a motor is on the dyno because A, it's standing still. So if you have anything loose or any fueling issues or anything at all, like you can address it immediately. You're not driving around, you can't watch under your hood while you're driving on the street. But on the dyno, the hood's open, you can really keep an eye on things. And then as far as breaking it in, the best way to do it is you want to slowly build up in RPM. So, drive it a little bit and then go up to like say 3 or 4,000 RPM, leave it in gear and let it decelerate heavy under heavy vacuum. Then go higher RPM, then go higher RPM, and then go to max RPM. Uh, and, wait till the heat gets, wait till you get to full operating temperature, let it cool down. Do that maybe one more time and you should be good to go. Cedric says, "Hey Ken, glad to see you doing a full 180 after your accident. Hope to meet you soon and do business as well." Awesome, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. The accident. Oh, speaking of accidents, for those of you guys who were on the live feed last week, I went out and did a draggy on my truck, and it didn't go too good. Well, it did go good because I went fast, but I had some major issues, and I'm not going to be doing any draggies on the street out front, at least with something that fast and those tires on it. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Aaron Morin, what's up? Thanks for stopping by. Thoughts on the 1320 ported Boss with an ESS kit? I think the 1320 ported Boss is great. I've never done a test on it versus say a GT350 or Mach 1. Just not counting the port work that those guys do on the Boss. My choice is usually a GT350 over a Boss, but with the Boss intake and the porting, I don't know, but we're going to find out because that's going to be another test. Even if you're not interested in a billet intake, we're going to test the Mach 1 / GT350 versus a porter Boss. So, yeah, man, I suck at saying some of your guys' names. Yabber. I love your honesty and you're comparing between them. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys can see my intent. Carlos says I get to tune his car and he's going to change his hood. Oh, wait, no, that's not what he said. Parsa, if you don't mind, what happened to Rob Shoemaker? Actually, I didn't get to watch it yet, but he addressed that on the Go Hard podcast last night. He basically just got burned out. Palm Beach Dyno is a high volume operation. And, he had a lot on his shoulders. And I just think it was time for him to move on and do more focused work. And I think he likes working specifically with dealers, is what he said. And, Rob did good for us while he was here. So, I wish him the best. Jose, what's up? Blessings from the Buck family in New York City. What's up? I'm from Staten Island, if you didn't know that. I pretty much grew up on Staten Island until I was 17. So always have a little bit of New York in me, even though it seems to be a little rough right now. Which wideband would you recommend I put on the 2010 GT500 before I bring it to you guys? I will show you that in a minute online. Brian, engine break-in here on Dyno. Thanks again. Car is running good. Hey, Brian, what's up? I just retuned an S550 Whipple car and started off with your tune, and that car's running great now, too. Let me show you guys this intake manifold real quick. I got it mostly apart. I don't know if you can hear me. Not being close to the mic. Hopefully you can. The reason I want to show you guys this, there we go. The reason I want to show you guys this is there's just so much attention to detail on this setup, and that's why I was so happy to work with these guys because there's a lot of things done on this intake that I felt I would have liked to see on other intakes that weren't there. And I'm not trying to start any wars. I love Plasma Man intakes. We still sell Plasma Man. I think it's a great intake. But this was a good opportunity for me to be involved directly in decision making with intake manifolds and have input on getting this thing made exactly how I want it to kind of help everybody else out get the most out of an intake manifold. But when it comes down to it, there's lots of good options out there, and Plasma Man, they're great people. I love Australians, and I love Australia. It is a little interesting to me, though, that out of most of the well-known commercialized billet intakes, almost none of them are built in the United States. And while I love my guys in the UAE, Dubai, with this intake, it bothers me a little bit that we don't have, good USA stuff. And, I don't want to get all like crotchety old man and like, everybody's lazy nowadays and all that. But these guys give me no kickback on anything. They're super awesome to deal with. One other thing on these intake manifolds, the intake itself is fairly universal, and then it comes with your throttle body mounting flange of choice, and we're going to have the most options of any intake out there. We've got regular GT. We've got we're coming out with a 21 F-150 specific intake manifold, which also has a different throttle body bolt pattern. That's going to work. It's got LS 102. It's got Ford 105. It's got GT 500. It's got GT 350. So pretty much almost any throttle body you want to run, we'll be able to take care of it. And even if we don't have it, we can make it. We didn't have Ford 105, which is like AccuFab and Wilson. Guess what? We do now because somebody asked for it. So here's the lid, which is very, very light. I haven't weighed this thing yet, but to me, it's the whole intake manifold is fairly light. We will weigh it in the video, though. But here's what I wanted to show you. This thing is just amazing. I love the way these bells are done, velocity stacks, whatever you want to call them. I believe that if you go watch the video on the GT 500 setup, let me get the mic out of the way. Hold on. Let's see how I'm going to do this. Hello. Oh, I'm messing everything up. All right, there you go. You can see that pretty good. So what's key here is, I believe, these bells, which also extend the runner length comparatively to the Plasma Man and the Sean's. They not only give you a better inlet to it, it also smooths out the airflow, and it was just like the smoothest, best power curve I've seen on any intake manifold. So, and here's the bottom of it, which has spot for a map sensor. A lot of these intake manifolds don't have that. It's got 2 spots up here for vacuum reference, and then 2 bigger ones in the back for like a brake booster or whatever you need. So anyway, that's it on this for today. I absolutely love that thing. And, a lot of people have been asking me, like, well, which intake would you choose between the carbon one and the billet one? Hey, look at that. Hanlon Motorsports. Man, we got some famous people in here tonight. Bob Hanlon builds transmissions. He's been around longer than me, I'm sure. And he was, I remember him back in the NMRA days building transmissions for things like Pure Street and probably Factory Stock and Real Street and all the classes that are no longer existing. And I will never have racing like that again in this type of cars, but it was fun while it lasted. Anyway, I don't know if that's Bob or what, but what's up? Barza says, Ken, what's the most I can get out of a stock Gen 2 motor safely? That's a very good question because it's loaded, right? Safely, there's no such thing, right? So you know, stock engines blow up. So if stock engines blow up, those weren't safe either. So anything can blow up at any time. You can have bad fuel, you can have a parts failure, things just fail. You can do nothing wrong and your engine can blow up. But I get what you're saying. Playing the odds. Um, I don't really see a problem between 8 and 900 horsepower on those. That's pretty common. We've pushed them further than that. You know, anything I say, somebody's going to come behind me. Oh, I made 1,000 horsepower. It's like, yeah, you did. Maybe yours lasted a year. Maybe your buddies did the same thing and it lasted one pull. But 800 to 900, I'd say under 900 should be fairly reliable, I guess, if that's such a thing. When you're talking about that much power, and that really holds for Gen 2 or 3. Gen 3, we've pushed harder than that, and they seem to hold a little bit better. I really like the Gen 2 engine, though, especially for pump gas. I think I prefer the Gen 2 engine. Danny says VMP Gen 2R, 700 roll horsepower stock torque converter versus 2C 60-foot gains. That's a very you got to tell me what generation is that, a 6-speed, like a 6 or 80 or 10 or 80? Either way, a lot of people have been fast with stock converters in both applications, but it'll be a little bit faster with a converter for sure. Mike S says 2020 GT500 twin turbo, 3.8 Whipple. What would you go with? Twin turbo versus 3.8. Well, I wasn't going to show this right away, but let's do it because you brought it up. Let's see how I do this. I forget. All right. That's not it. Where'd it go? Here it is. Gen. So I wanted to show you this, guys, because this is big news. You guys have seen the Gen 6 Whipple stuff. The 2024 Mustang has that, and we're going to talk about 2024 Mustang in just a little bit too. But the Gen 6 3.8 is really big news because the Gen 6 3-liter is an evolution to, oh, Brandy says, not the Coke. I'm not allowed to drink. Well, she does, she doesn't tell me what to do. I'm saying that in a nice way. But I was tired, so sorry. I'm having a Coca-Cola. Lead the performance here. What's up? We're talking about Whipple. You must have heard. The Gen 6 3.8 is bigger news than the Gen 6 3-liter because it's a pretty large change and it's related to durability mostly, although it makes much more power. We've already tested this in a billet version, but Billet's not exactly what we're selling. We're selling cast superchargers. So this is the first cast one that we've got our hands on. I believe it's one of the first 5 or so. So let's watch this real quick. 6 3.8. This is the first look you guys are getting at this. I believe it's one of the very first ones out here. It's going on Ben King's GT500 with a Coyote swap 6R80. What a monster this thing's going to be. All right, this is what I wanted to show you guys. All of this extra, these 4 triangles, I guess I would say, that's a huge deal. That's going to make things much more durable. And this is, it's no secret that there's been a decent amount of 3.8 liter Gen 5 blowers that have failed on. We've had some on the GT500 platform, only when we really push them at high RPM. And there's 2 things that's going to fix that. Part of it is this new casting. Also, speaking of castings, I've noticed that the casting in general quality on this seems to be even better than I've ever seen out of Whipple. So that's maybe another change. I'm not sure if that's a change, but all this extra bracing is a big deal. And the other real big deal is on the, so right here, These are the rotors, or screws would be the proper term. The Gen 5 3.8 had a larger diameter uh, screw, and it was shorter. Well, the problem with that is something called moment of inertia, or centrifugal force is not really the proper term. I don't think, but the larger it is, you have more rotating weight, and the further out it is, the harder it is to stop. So on and off, and that's when things can go awry. So in this case, what Whipple did is they kept it a 3.8 liter, but they made the screws longer and less of a diameter. So um, I believe that this is going to be a big deal. And we actually have this vehicle on the dyno. That the vehicle, let's see, I think I showed it right here. I don't have a good picture of this car, but you saw it earlier. And it's actually a 2010 GT500 with a 6R80 TKM engine. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's super, super clean, badass car. Lethal Performance, I already said hi to you guys. Hey, that's great advice. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm really, for those of you guys that didn't notice, I took about a 4-month break from YouTube, mostly just to get things going and getting things at the shop right. And I just didn't have time to really do it like I did in the past, but I'm making the time now. Really enjoy it. A lot of people ask me that, like, man, how do you find the time to do it? It's like, well, if you don't want to do it, you're not going to find the time. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy the creative side of video, and I also enjoy the live stuff where I get to interact directly with you guys. So I'm going to try and do the live every single Wednesday. If you guys haven't noticed, I've been doing a lot more shorts, and then hopefully I'll be doing a lot more full form videos. The good old days. You're right, man. I wish I could rewind time, or we can have, I don't know, mid 2000 NMRA back with super serious racing, tear downs, the whole 9 yards. It was painful, but I loved it. Carter's TV, what power level would you look into a manifold of this caliber over a GT350 or Boss? Well, that's a good question. We're going to during our testing, I'm going to test, we'll just say here, we'll do like 1,000, 1,200, and 1,300. So we'll do a pull at each one of those power levels, or let's see, I'm trying to think. Yeah, so with the Mach 1 intake, I'll set the baseline at 1,000, 1,200, and 1,300. Whatever the duty cycle and boost was on those settings, we'll use those same 3 settings. Now, obviously, if another intake picks up, the other one's not going to be at 1,000, but it'll be the same boost settings, and then we'll see what we get. I mean, it's just like doing something carbon fiber on your car. At what point do you need carbon fiber on your car? Never. Do you want carbon fiber on your car? Yes, I do. So a lot of people, like a good example is the carbon fiber intake. That intake is going on some really fast cars. One of them, I don't know. I'm not mentioning any names because it hasn't been posted publicly, but I'm talking some of the fastest coyotes in the world. And, when they asked me about the intakes, they're like, how do you think it's going to do before we did the dyno test? And I'm like, I think it'll do great. They're like, as long as it doesn't lose power, I want that intake. Like, I'd even lose 50 horsepower just to get that intake, So that's part of the question is, do you want that intake on your car? Do you like the look of it? Like some people like fancy jewelry, some people don't. So there's that component of it. And it comes down to budget, right? Like if you have the money to do it and you want it, do it. I don't care if you're making 800 horsepower, but I would think at the really high level, it becomes very beneficial because with a plastic intake, you have lots of variance in how they're made and strength, and there's not intakes exploding left and right all over the place, and there's not that many people that run over 30 pounds of boost. But if you're running over 30 pounds of boost, I personally would do it. But at 30 pounds of boost is much higher than 1,200. I would say most people making 11, 12, 1,300 horsepower, it's a good idea, especially if it's in the budget, especially if you like the way it looks. Revit Racing, what happened with your 2011 Mustang? Do you still have it? Yes, I do. In fact, I will show you a picture of it because I think I know where one is. Give me a minute. Um, so, but I'll tell you about it. So, what happened was with my Mustang, my 2011, is I got it back out. We set a new personal best of, crap. Hold on a sec. Sorry. We set a new personal best of 7.6 at like one. Shit, I don't even remember. It wasn't my best mile an hour. My best mile an hour in the car was 182. I think I went one like 76 or something like that. 7.6 at 176. And then at Mod Nats that same year. Oh crap. This whole Facebook thing really threw me for a loop. Every time I try to log in on a computer I haven't logged in on since the great crash of 2024, I got to do all this extra crap to get in. Hold on, I'll do it because I want to show you the picture. This is not the normal computer I use every day. Ah, shit. All right, I'm not giving up. It looks like I had the wrong phone number on Facebook. Give me one sec. Sorry, guys. Oh, well, I'll try to get it in a little bit. For some reason, it says it's sending me a code to my email, but I don't see it. Damn Facebook. Here it is. Jesus. It's like Fort Knox over here. Oh my God. All right, forget it. I'm not doing it. Sorry about that. That was a little bit of a wrong turn. Anyway, to answer the question, I took it to Mod Nats, whatever year that was. I did a wheelie, came down super hard, broke a bunch of shit. And at that point, I decided it's time to redo it. And like I do everything, I way overdid it. I way overestimated the budget I had to do it. But I'm going all out on that car. It's staying at 6 or 80, but it's at AC Carcraft, getting everything 25.3 carbon wheel tubs, 9-inch with 15 by 14 like 3-inch back spacing weld alphas, every carbon roof, everything I can do to that deal. But it's on hold right now due to budget. I've got my truck, I've got all kinds of projects. I got my Godzilla truck. I got a lot of projects, and I would really, really, really love to get back to Dead Spool, that car is called, but right now it's on hold. It will be back out maybe next year. I was hoping this year, but maybe next year. Grip Garage asks if he can use 1-ethanol R mixed with pump 85, tuned by you on 85. You could. I don't really see any benefit to it. We sell 1-ethanol here. I never ever use R unless I absolutely have to. It doesn't run very good when it's cold out, and it's a lot of money. I run my truck on pump. That's not true. I did put 1-ethanol R when I went to the no prep race, but I didn't really need to do that. I'm just kind of paranoid I'm going to blow that thing up. Is the main reason, because I'm just making 930 at the wheels on a stock engine. But I pretty much run pump gas in that thing all the time. So you could do it, but I don't really see a big advantage. Decor Art, that's Pedro for you guys that don't know. What's up, brother? Is there still an echo going on, guys? I hope not. Let me know if you, Brandy said there's an echo. Let me know if there's still an echo. Chris is asking if any Whipple F-150s are for sale. I saw one for sale, a red one with wheels I didn't really love in Texas. So that's the only one I've seen. Tim Buck says, hi from Australia. Keep up the great work. I'm getting a sleeve Gen 2 block built at the moment. Streetcar 6R80. Keep it under 1,000 horsepower. Hit us up for a tune. Tim asks, would you go Hellion or ESS? Definitely Hellion. Nothing wrong with ESS. I personally prefer ProCharger over ESS. I'm sure all the ESS fanboys are gonna love that comment, but you know, there's lots of reasons that I prefer ProCharger over ESS. But ESS did a good job with a low cost kit. Got to give them that. Pick a Benz car is on the main chat. Well, I just failed at logging into Facebook, so unfortunately, this is not the computer I use every day. So all my permissions are not set up right. I need to be more prepared for this sort of stuff. Sport Roof just picked him up a 21 F-150. Learning some great stuff here. Thanks for the show. The shows you're doing. Going to be contacting PBD soon for some advice and that sleeper Hellion twin turbo kit. Please send it here. We've got a lot of interest. We sold a few kits, but none of them are coming here yet. So I'd really like to build a lot more of those. That truck is, we're going to be testing the Billet the special version for the 21 Plus F-150. We're testing on that truck you guys saw on the channel. Carbon drive shaft, converter, RSA trans, differential, basically almost everything except a built motor, and I'm sure that'll be right after it. Really love the Billet version. Waiting for the test results. Appreciate you comparing. You don't know me. Am the TTR owner and the team. Hey, that's awesome. I did not know. You guys got a great team over there. Everybody's been great to deal with. I deal mostly with Felipe here. I think he's here in the U.S., but I've met at least one of your engineers in a video meeting that when we originally went over the whole project, and every step of the way, it's been awesome. Yeah, I got to figure out what's going on with the echo. It's only when I'm playing a video, so it's not a big deal. TJ says Whipple is better than ESS. Yeah, you know, when it comes down to it, if you want to go supercharger, I like Whipple or ProCharger. Actually, speaking of ProCharger, bring that up. Man, I am failing here. Must have closed it. I had something ready for you guys. Let me find it real quick. They posted, or I got an email about it. I don't know if it's new information, but information on the their 2024 setup. Yeah, here it is. All right, here's the website for it. So, you know, the elephant in the room is there's no tuning for this yet. ProCharger has some good resources. Hopefully they can figure something out there. But I just wanted to show it to you because they're doing a dual inlet setup. They actually have, hopefully the picture's on this page. Yeah, look at that. I thought that was pretty cool. The dual carbon inlets. Another reason I like ProCharger is the people involved. Eric is an awesome guy. I deal with him all the time. But, you know, this is another option for you guys. Of course, there's no way to run the car perfectly now, but they are selling tuner kits if there's a way for you to get, you know, like doing a standalone or something like that. John F., what do I think about the air-cooled comp turbos? No, sorry. Don't like it. Don't like the idea of it. I've had bad experiences with them. In fact, we had Ray. I don't know if he's still in here. He was here in the beginning. I'm trying to get his car posted soon. He's got an awesome GT350 that was a Whipple car, switched to twin turbos, had comp turbos, and it didn't even make it through the dyno session, and they did not warranty the turbo. I sold him a set of Zona Rotor turbos. I would recommend those, or Hellion turbos, HPT, those sorts of things. And, they're awesome. Just the whole having to pack them with grease, and there's just nothing I like. There's nothing I like about the idea of those turbos. Tim says Hellion was the answer he wanted. Good. John says, if I ever get full access to the DCT in 2020, would it be a game changer? Sure, definitely. The big thing holding us back is we can't really run a aftermarket clutch easily. SSP makes a clutch that works, but it doesn't add that much capacity. Now, there's other people working on this. Clint at True Street Motorsports down in Texas. I believe he's talking about having a much more advanced clutch, and he's got some fast Motec ones down there. So he may be onto something. I'm not really sure. When it comes to the clutch thing, I've kind of decided to take a back seat a little bit on that sort of development. I had one in my car when I wrecked it, and it wasn't the cause of the wreck, but it might have been a factor. So, I'm just kind of like, I was a little bit burnt out on spending so much money and not making much progress. And I just figured I'd wait. We're doing awesome work with the stock clutch, and obviously there's no issues with the stock clutch as long as you keep the power. The power, people ask what the stock clutch is good to. Usually at least 1150. A lot of the times, most of the time, at least 1250. But after that, start having problems. No, I saw someone in Australia made a custom 871 blower for a Coyote. Do you think Whipple or any company would do something like that? No, I don't really see a reason. You can get a big Whipple. The Whipple makes like a 5-liter blower for other applications, and you can put that on there. An 871 blower is a Roots blower. In general, Roots is not as good as a twin screw. Whipple's a twin screw, so they probably stick to screws. Michael, I am running a snow water meth kit set to turn on at 5 psi and turn off at 10 psi without a tune for it's used to cool. I run 10 psi, ProCharged, and tuned by PBD. So, my opinion on meth is kind of interesting. Or I find the whole meth thing, it's like building a nitrous car. It's awesome. It works great. I had nitrous on my Super Duty, but it's not for everybody. So if you consider yourself, in this case, you're using it just for cooling, so it's less of a risk. But those guys that are using it for fueling and extra timing and all that, it could really be the death sentence, because sometimes those kits fail. Sometimes the nozzles get clogged. So if you're a responsible owner and you're constantly maintaining it and cleaning it and making sure it's working, then I think you're fine. Is it possible to see horsepower gains without a tune for water meth? Not really. You're going to need more timing in it to make the power. Nuxo, why ProCharger over ESS? Have P1X, so I'm just curious. All of the above. All of the above. ESS is kind of like the on-3 of superchargers, right? They've got their place. They have many happy owners, but their budget, they're cheaper made, cheaper materials. Again, I work with companies overseas all the time. I work with TTR. I work with Turbo Smart in Australia, all over the place. But I am an American. So if I can, I like to work with American companies and support American companies. And ProCharger is one of those companies. They're a great company. They're great to deal with. They care about their dealers. One thing, and it's not specific to ESS, Boundary oil pump gears is another one. They come into the market, they sell based off price, but the problem is they're screwing shops like us, right? Because there's no margin for a shop to make money on those kits. Now, there's probably some people, If you do enough of them, maybe you get better discounts. But we tried to sell ESS, but it was like, I think we got like a $300 discount on one of the kits. It's like, man, what the by the time, we pay credit card fees and all that, we make no money on it. And there's lots of reasons. But in general, you know, ProCharger is a supercharger company. ESS is not a supercharger company. I don't care what you say. They don't make superchargers. I could do what ESS is doing. They're speccing things out. Maybe they designed the billet aluminum bracket, which is not super difficult. And then they're getting their superchargers manufactured by somebody else. That's not a problem, but they're not the root source of that product. ProCharger is the root source of that product. They've been around forever. They probably still do. They make, I think their roots were in de-icing airplanes. Like they're a true American success story. They're an awesome company to deal with, very communicative when we're ordering. If there is an issue, which everybody has issues with shipping parts, they get it to us right away. I mean, they're just great guys to deal with, and the product's great, and they offer way more options, way more blowers. There's just lots of reasons. That being said, we tune a lot of ESS cars. The ESS stuff works pretty well. They have a huge fan base. There's nothing wrong with them. I just prefer ProCharger. Jay Bird, do you guys do tunes for 0304 Cobras or mainly just focusing on Coyote platforms for the most part? I have probably tuned more Cobras than anybody on the planet, if I had to guess. They came out when I was starting in early tuning. I did the very first Whipple 03 Cobra. I did the first 10-second Whipple 03 Cobra, which was the same car. And I tune Cobras all the time still, but only in person. Do not do those remotely. I have no desire to do those remotely. They're too challenging and require a very special person on the other side of that. And I'd have to charge too much and to do it because it's a lot more work. But in person, I'll do it all day long. Rocco, ProCharger should buy a Whipple tune. Yeah. I don't think that would work. I guess if you put the same throttle body on it, maybe. Jay-Z, 3.8 Whipple for F-150 ever going to be a thing? Yeah, you might see that on my truck. Obviously, I love turbos, but we've got Clay's truck to highlight the turbos, and he's really interested in racing it. So I think I'm going to stick with Whipple for quite some time. And when I go built motor, maybe there'll be a 3.8 Whipple on it. Craig Belt, when are you going to build a Fox body? Probably never. I don't dislike Fox bodies. Are you talking about me or Palm Beach Dyno? Either way, I do like Fox bodies, but everything I do, I have to consider how it's going to come off and marketing and all that. And, Fox body doesn't speak to our customer base. We specialize in newer stuff. So using a newer body for builds is always going to be better for what I do. Max says, 20 plus GT500 full bolt on porta blower MS109 versus E85. Could you run a 221 or 24 pulley with maybe M1 methanol? No, I don't think I wouldn't do method injection. Again, we talked about that earlier. I went really fast on MS109 in my own GT500 before I did the fuel system. MS109, you can usually get pretty close to E85, and there's no reason you couldn't run that pulley combo on MS109. It's going to be fairly close. It just gets expensive compared to E85. All the money you spend on MS109, you can put towards the fuel system, run E85, and you're good to go. Carter's, do you tune more ESS cars by volume than ProCharger cars? No, definitely not. We tune a lot of ProCharger cars. Also, the ESS crowd has it's weird. It's like a little bit of a clique or cult or whatever, and they have a few tuners that they really specialize. Like everybody, they got a group on Facebook. They all go to the same couple tuners. But we tune a lot of ProCharge cars. So I even if a lot of the ESS guys started coming to us, I don't. I still think ProCharger would be much bigger. You got to remember, for those of you guys that spend a lot of time on Facebook, it's a little bit of an echo chamber. And being on YouTube really showed me that because initially I marketed heavily on Facebook and only on Facebook, and then I started the YouTube channel and didn't do a lot with it. It was just like a photocopy of what I was already doing on Facebook, and then I tried to, step up my game, make better videos and all that. And uh, the mindset and everything is very different from on a YouTube customer versus a Facebook customer. I'm on Facebook, so I'm not talking shit about Facebook people. I'm on Facebook a lot. I do a lot of business on Facebook. But it's a little bit of an echo chamber. It's a little bit of a, everybody kind of knows each other, but it's a very small part of the overall car community. So, I guess I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say there. But point being is, for every ESS car you see on Facebook, there's probably 10 ProCharge cars that aren't on Facebook. I think you might mean BMP there. I kind of want to take my 2.9 Whipple off and go turbo on the 2010 just for the heck of it, but Buck gonna kick my ass or get a Century blower. But if you don't make power difference, I won't. Going from I'd have to know more about your combo, like stock motor. 2.9 Whipple, I like. I just tuned a 2.9 Whipple today on an S550. We do a lot of those on trucks still. 2.9 Whipple is a great blower up to about, 850, and then they start to struggle after that. We've made 1,000 with them, but 850 is their sweet spot, and then after that, not so much. Obviously, if you're looking to make more than that, then switching to turbos would be a good idea. I wish I can remember every car, but I remember most of them. Unfortunately, there was a time where I knew every single car coming in because I touched every single car, and we have Kobe and Bobby, and they help a lot of people, and so I don't know every car we work on, but ones that I touch, I remember them mostly. I'm very bad at names, but I remember cars and faces. Parsa asks, what are your thoughts on 4 fuel systems, and do you recommend any other fuel systems than 4? I've been a 4 dealer since before Palm Beach Dyno. Love 4. That's my choice. But Lethal Performance does some good fuel system stuff. Division X, we use their stuff a lot. We get a lot of customers with that. Beyond those 2, well, the other one we do not a decent amount of, but that I really, really like. It was in my own personal car. We built multiple cars with it. Is the ID brushless system. Awesome. Very expensive though. So those are my 3 main uses there. I don't really use anybody else's. Well, on F-150, the JD fuel system is pretty good. That's a returnless dual pump system that if you would have asked me before, I would have said, I don't know about that, but we've tuned a lot of trucks with it and it works great. And I've spoken to him recently quite often, and he seems like a really smart guy and very dedicated to making his products work well, which is important to me. Rocco says he runs one of our MS-109 tunes on his Roush 2650 9.6. That's probably one of the what year car is it? If it's a Gen 3, that's probably one of the faster Roush passes ever, honestly. That's very nice. Oh, yeah, Jose said 2010 GT500. That's right. The problem is the 2.9 Whipple, it depends on how much power you're making. You can go turbo, but at a certain point, you're going to reach the limit of the engine. So you're not going to pick up a ton. Luke, Roush 2650 on a 2021 GT500. Your opinion on the blower? Hey, Jamie's in here. I didn't realize it. There he is. Like I said, he does a fuel system for F-150. I think he might be doing other ones down the road. He sent me pictures of his flow bench and flow test every system, and that's a big deal. like a big deal. And it's because he's driven because he loves doing it. A lot of people are like checking every penny they make, and it's just not in the cards to make money doing. I mean, I'm sure he makes money, but he makes less money because of all the time and effort he puts into it. But the time and effort makes results for his customers, which in the long term is going to help him in his business. But not everybody sees it that way. Rocco 2020. Yeah, that's really fast. I don't know too many Roush 2650 cars that have been faster than that. So good job. Jamie says he's building fuel systems as he's watching the live feed. Yeah, TJ's having some problems with his Whipple car. It's one of the faster Mach 1s out there. I think 940. I don't know. Remind me, TJ. 930, 940. It's making a little noise. It doesn't look like it's the typical issues we've had with some Whipples, but it's definitely making some weird noises. So we need to figure that out. I want to talk about 2024 Whipple stuff. Well, 2024 in general. I just showed you the ProCharger one, but a lot of you guys saw the lethal videos I was in, helping them getting the dyno numbers and everything together. Then they went to the track, and some people just can't see what actually is going on with something like that. It's like it's a stick car with like an off-the-shelf tune. There's a lot to work through. So, people were riding the fact that it didn't show 800 horsepower. It's like, of course it didn't. Did you see the thing leave? Did you see the shifts? I don't think it was a driver problem. I think it was cutting power between the shifts. But then you have VMP that goes out, and I don't know if it was their first time to the track, but possibly, because I didn't see any other news about them running, and they went nines, with a 10-speed. So how is that not making 800 horsepower? I'm sure it's making 800 horsepower. That's super, badass. I saw Beefcake got his blower installed. I don't think he's been to the track yet. There's a lot of 2024 Whipple cars coming out. The big one I'm interested in, especially when you're talking about a stick car, is Kelly. And nothing against Lethal, but they're a business that's busy, and Jared has a lot of things going on, and of course it's very important to him to go fast with his car. But Kelly has been racing stick shift Mustangs for a very, very long time. He's very anal, super detailed about every little thing to make a car as fast as possible. He just went fives with his GT500 stock. Nobody does that. And, we're going to help him like we always do, build that thing up and get it set up. I heard he might want to make it a CX1100. He may want to try to go faster than anybody. We'll see with GT500. And he'll do the same thing with his 2024 Whipple setup. I think we might be installing that for him. If not, we'll be dynoing it for him. So that's another one to keep an eye on. And of course, I'm talking about shop cars, VMP, Beefcake, Keltrack, Lethal. That's the first wave. And then there's other cars behind it. Igor, who was on our dyno, which I think I showed you guys, he's got two vehicles. I think two dark horses, a stick shift and an auto, I think. I'm not sure. But he definitely has two Whipple cars, so hopefully he'll be going to the track soon. Heavy Chevy, that's Jeremy, our shop manager. Billy Jack, what's up? Supra, how you doing? New Moon says 20 stock 500, your MS109 tune, 18s MTRs. Can I use? I don't know what TM with TC on traction control. I don't know what TM means. You can use traction control. It'll be slower for sure. But the GT500, it's very smooth on the traction control, so it won't like totally kill it and fall on its face. But if you're running like a draggy or something like that, then you'll definitely notice the difference. Kevin Chandler, what's up, brother? How you doing? Hope everything's going good. What do I want to show you guys? Oh, The other thing I wanted to mention is the Whipple. The Gen 6 upgrade is now available for 2011 to 2023 GT and 2015 to 2023 F-150. I think it's like a $500 upgrade. Those people who who have asked, like, is it worth it? Is it worth waiting? Well, you don't have to wait anymore. You can get it for $500. It's not a huge change, but you'll probably make between 25 and 50 more horsepower on any particular pulley setup. So back to this comment real quick. Not that one, this one, where it says TM. We're thinking it means Mickey Thompson. Can you use the Mickey Thompsons with TC on? Yes, but you shouldn't need it. Especially, it says it's a stock GT500. Obviously, it's got a tune and MS109 in it. At that power level, I highly doubt you need traction control on with those tires. Although, it's up to you to turn it off. ProCharged Beast, what's up? Hey, Lee has an awesome. Well, actually, he's got 2 GT500s. Let me know if it's still for sale, Lee. Anybody looking for a badass black GT500? He's got one for sale. He bought a different one with a Whipple. In fact, it's got some history behind it. It was the very first Whipple GT500 built at Whipple, remote tuned by us at Whipple, and then eventually he's wound up with it now. It's awesome. Oh, you meant TM means track mode manual shift. No, in track mode, I think track mode automatically turns off traction control, but it leaves on advanced track. So you can use advanced track, which is going to save you if the car gets crooked, like kicks out, but it's not normal traction control. If you want to use traction control, you'd have to be in sport mode. Is the Gen 6 Whipple for the 23 F-150 a 3.8 liter? No. The generation is not related to the size, right? So there's a Gen 5 3 liter, and there's a Gen 5 3.8 liter. There's a Gen 6 3 liter and a Gen 6 3.8 liter. So the generation isn't tell you what size it is. There's no 3.8 liter as far as I know right now for the F-150, but it's coming for sure. I talked to Dustin about it, and I'll probably put one on my truck once I can get a built motor in there. I got a bunch of stuff too to my truck. A lot of money to spend. For those of you guys that don't know, my truck has a stock torque converter, stock transmission, stock drive shaft, stock diff, which is a problem right now. I'm getting one wheel peel, and I don't have a electric diff in that thing to lock it in the burnout box. So Danny asks, I've seen multiple turbo setups and supercharger setups, but I haven't seen an Armageddon twin turbo kit on a 14 GT. How good is the installation if you have come across it? I don't really know if Armageddon is really doing a whole lot anymore. They have a website and a parts site. I just don't hear much about them anymore. We built the very first 7-second 680 car with an Armageddon kit. That was it was a great kit, don't get me wrong, but it was also a little bit of a nightmare because it's a top mount kit on an S550. After running it a while, a lot of things needed to be tightened up, but we couldn't get to it. We would have had to disassemble the entire vehicle to get to where we needed to. So we just turned the boost up, and it went faster, but it wasn't going as fast as it should have. On a 14 GT, I would recommend a Hellion turbo kit, which is a top mount kit, which is similar to the fluid kit, which was designed on my 2011. That was badass. But you can't get that anymore, I don't think. But the Hellion kit is great. And I'm sure Eurus would love to get you a kit. And it's probably not as expensive as what the Armageddon was either. Lee says GT500's for sale. So if anybody needs a GT500, make sure you hit him up. He's definitely a Facebook guy, so you might be able to find him on there. We've got a GT500 group on Facebook. It's called 2020 Plus GT500 Tech and Troubleshooting. Make sure you get in there. I need some help with admins on that group if anybody wants to volunteer, because we have it set up to where everything has to get approved and people have to get approved, and there's probably like 600 people waiting to get in. I haven't looked at yet. The problem is there's so many BS people trying to get in that you can't just go in and go, oh yeah, let's let everybody in, because then you wind up with all the porn and T-shirts and junk for sale on your group. So Max 9string says, seems like a majority of other platforms have true flex fuel. How come it's not doable on Ford, or most specifically on the 2020 GT500? Good question. That is because there's, so certain brands like GM, for instance, their flex fuel vehicle uses a flex fuel sensor. So if it's a vehicle that doesn't have flex fuel, they can usually turn that on. Ford has never had a flex fuel sensor vehicle, as far as I know. All the flex fuel vehicles they have use inferred logic, meaning it kind of guesses what's in there. And it does a very, very good job at it. I do flex fuel, Whipple F-150s all the time, and it works great. But it's not as scientific as using a sensor. So that, and because the GT500, like we do it on the F-150 because those are flex fuel stock. We had the Whipple, we keep it flex fuel. So on a GT500, they've never been flex fuel. There's no way to even turn it on. You're not going to have all the proper tables that you need, and it's just dangerous. So that's pretty much why. PCM Tech does have an add-on deal where you can, with the custom OS and all that stuff, and add that. I just had, when we've got some of the parts needed to do that installed on our sales guy Mike's car, but I just haven't had time to mess with it. It takes time. Luis says he's saving money to get his car retuned on E85 from us. Want to go with the best out there. Thanks, brother. Appreciate that. Kevin says when he gets healthy, he's building an S197 turbo car. S197s, when the S550 came out, they took a little bit of a back seat, but they're gaining in popularity because it's really a badass setup, straight axle. Obviously, you can get them fairly cheap right now. So all the money that you save on buying the car, put into making power. Obviously, you don't want to really mess with stock Gen 1 motors at this point because they weren't super durable when they were new, and now they're at least 10 years old. So, Decor Art, I need GT500. What are you talking about? Yeah, like 3 of them or something, at least 2. All right, so, wow, it's already 8:30 almost. Let's see. Anything else you guys want to go over before I call it a night? I had some notes here. What else? Oh, I didn't have a chance to talk about it, but I'm going to show you the video anyway because I love this vehicle. Let's see if we can fix the echo problem too. So let's see. All right, tell me if this is echoing. Or you can't hear it at all. I don't think you can hear it at all. T350, naturally aspirated, stick shift, S550 IRS on 93 octane. Let's hear it make a dyno pull. Did the sound come back after a little bit? I know at first it didn't have sound, but I think I fixed it. Anyway, this thing is so awesome. Like, I asked these guys to come back so we can do a feature video on it. I hope they come back. It's a father and son combo deal that did this together, and it's a GT350 engine, which is cool. I think this is almost as cool. It has IRS in it from an S550. I mean, so insane. Very, very cool. They did all the body work themselves. The the bed on the truck is from a Ranger, and then they added all the extra stuff to it. Super, super cool. That stuff really humbles me when I see just two guys show up with like something I would be extremely proud to come out of our shop. Very, very cool. All right. I think I figured out the whole echo and sound thing. So maybe next week I'll have everything 100% perfect. An E85 tune I purchased from PBD back in 21, 22. Can I still get the file from you guys? Yeah, we keep everything on file. So if you broke your device or lost your device, you can just hit us up and we'll email you the same tunes. So the reason I had that video up is we've been doing a ton of Coyote swaps, and I've got a video coming out soon that's going to feature them all. When I say feature them, show a dyno pull, show the dyno numbers, talk about them a little bit. We don't get a chance to show all the badass Coyote swap stuff we do, but like that truck's a good example. But there's been multiple really cool ones. We did Cyclone, a Fairlane, all kinds of things that unfortunately in the busyness of our shop, these things get overlooked a lot. I should do more videos on these, and I'm going to try to wrap those all up into one big Coyote swap video. So hopefully that'll be out soon. Anyway, I think I'm about ready to wrap this up. Let me look at my notes here. I think I handled everything. Luis, what gear ratio would you say is best for a Tremec T56? It depends on, how much power you're making. Less gear, if you're making big power, you want, the less aggressive first gear is the main thing that you got to choose there. So, just depends on what you're building. Look at this, Gen 1. He's got a Gen 1 direct port nitrous on race gas. That's a serious setup. Is that a stock Gen 1? If it's a stock Gen 1, the Gen 1 had very, very weak pistons. So that's a hard question to answer, especially if we're tuning it. If it's a stock engine, man, back when they were new engines, I would do up to a 200 shot, no problem. We probably had done more than that even. But as they age, one misstep with a 200 shot could really be a problem. So I'd like to see it at 150 shot or lower, honestly, if you want it to live. If you're not that worried about it, then, send it with a 200 shot. Oswaldo, what's up? Looking forward to getting tuned by you guys. Got a Gen 1 with Ported Eaton M122. Any suggestions before I get it tuned? Not really. Obviously, the most important thing, this applies to anybody coming to us for a dyno tune, is, make sure you got the right plugs in it, that they're fresh, right gap. Make sure Gen 1, if it's a Gen 1 car, it doesn't have a serviceable fuel filter. It's in the fuel hat. But we've seen a lot of those with issues over. It's getting worse and worse because the filter is built into the fuel hat. So the only way to fix that is to just put a new one in. So then at that point, you got to decide, do I just put a stock one back in? And I have no idea what those cost. Most people just elect to go to a return style fuel system so they can also make more power down the road. So, but spark plugs is probably the biggest thing that most people miss. Obviously, make sure you're on good known fuel, even if it's 93. Make sure you fill it up at a station you trust. Make sure, your tires are in good shape. Anybody that's coming in for a dyno tune, a lot of people think, we're going to fix a car on the dyno. It's like, no, I just had a car show up this week and it was vibrating and smoking and having all sorts of issues. And, we called it a day. No charge. Take it home. Please fix it. Bring it back when you're ready. So, making sure your car is in good mechanical shape before it gets here is the key. Luis says a 266 on. Yeah, if it's a Whipple, I would go. I forget the exact ratios, but I would just go with the less aggressive uh, T56, especially because that's going to give you more room to grow down the road if you wind up building the motor and making more and more power. Billy Jack, I need to add nitrous to my GT500 like Pedro. Oh no! Is that how he picked up 3/10? Did you just let the cat out of the bag? I see what you did there, Billy. Luis, planning on putting a Gen 3 short block on the future for making bigger power. That's a great, setup. A lot of people are doing that. Seems to work out really, really well. If you're not looking for over 1,000 horsepower, it's a great option for Gen 1 guys. We do tons of 321 swaps, tons of them. Michael says he's looking forward to seeing how the new billet intake works compared to the Mach 1 GT500 intake. Yeah, I think that's going to be the hidden gem in this testing. We pretty much know that the billet intake is going to do well in our testing versus, on the carbon intake on the GT500. But I haven't seen many tests. I wouldn't say any. I don't think I've seen any. I'm sure maybe they're out there. Even a Boss versus GT350, let alone versus a billet intake. So, we'll see what happens there. I'm really hopeful that the TTR comes out on top and comes out on top in a big way. And if it does, I think the larger gains are going to be at the high RPM, where the Mach 1 and the Boss should struggle a little bit once you get up into that 8,500 plus range. We'll probably do pulls to 8,500 or maybe a little higher. I got to talk to the owner of the vehicle and see what they feel comfortable with. I built motors. I like to spin to like 9,000 if we can. I'm not sure if he wants to go that high. I'll find out before I do it. But at 9,000 RPM, if we go that high, I could see the gains on the TTR being significant over the other intakes. Luis says 850 to 950 is his goal. That's perfect for a Gen 3 short block 321 deal. You'll be real happy with that. Steeda did Boss versus 350 versus 18, I think. I'll have to check that out before I do my testing. I always like to see exactly what results other people have. All right, I'm yawning, guys. I'm going to call it a night. Hope you guys enjoyed the live feed. If you guys have any suggestions, you want to see certain things on the live feed, you want to see certain testing done, any of that stuff, you can go ahead and send us an email to support@pbdyno.com, or if you need help, keep in mind, Palm Beach Dyno is probably one of the only national tuners out there that has a full service phone setup. You can call us during our normal business hours, not even be a customer, call and talk to Mike or Pierre. And if you're a Palm Beach Dyno tuning customer, we have a thing called Premium and Premium Plus support that gets you trackside support, phone line directly to the tuning department. You get a free t-shirt. You get special discounts on the website. You get better rewards points, and you're just joining PBD as a member, helping to support us. That helps go towards everything that we do here, these live feeds, testing, things like that. So if you're a PBD tuned guy already, consider being a premium member. I think it's worth it, and you should make back all of what you spend in reward points and things like that. Revit Racing, plasma intake all day. Well, I like plasma, man, but the TTR beat it. So tough luck for you, buddy. Brandy says, see you soon. I'll see you in a little bit, baby. All right, guys. Thanks. Good night, and I'll see you next time.